Adrian Morton, and I'm a senior designer at the Agusta motorcycles.
It's quite a while. You've been working on this quite a while, haven't you?
Well, the project was relatively short, but obviously when we presented the bike in 2010, it was just a final sign-off model in terms of styling. Obviously we had some work to do to turn it into a production bike following the presentation at the EICMA Milan show.
And how are you happy with the initial response to people's reaction to the new bike?
Well, I mean, obviously when it was presented at Milan, it sort of won the accolade as being the sort of the best looking bike of the show. So that was a good start, I suppose. And obviously now it's a sort of a functioning vehicle that people can test. So obviously we're looking for the positive reaction that matches the styling today when the guys are testing it. So.
Just in case there are somebody that doesn't know your previous work, could you just quickly do your sort of discography?
I graduated in '95 from the Royal College of Art, and I came directly to Italy to work for initially Ducati, which was because the CRC, or the Cagiva Research Centre in San Marino, worked expressly for Cagiva and Ducati. And I started my career there. Basically, worked on what became the Brutale. I did a lot of work on the original Brutale. I left the company after about a year and a half and went to Benelli. I spent about 6 years at Benelli. Worked on a superbike, worked on a sports bike, the Tornado, which was quite a very interesting project, right from the sort of humble beginnings. Worked on the TNT. I began to work on the Trek and then left halfway through the project because of the change in ownership of the company. Unfortunately, Benelli was sold to the Chinese, and I made a decision to return to what was then MV Agusta. I returned to San Marino. I worked on the evolution of the Brutale, the F4, and the new F4, and the F3. Just being tested here today.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was the sound of the F3 as well.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah. So basically, you have got quite a lot of experience designing triples, really.
Yeah,
when you consider the Benelli.
Associated with triples and Paul Ricard, because we presented the Tornado here a few years back.
Exactly.
So, free cylinders seem to be quite present in my career.
Yeah. Is there any sort of special considerations you'll have to take because it's a triple engine rather than a V-twin, for instance?
I don't think so, really. I mean, obviously, in terms of the packaging, how the bike's laid out technically, it's got a different proportion to a V-twin engine, so everything fits around a different sort of volume in a way. But I don't really think, in terms of styling and what have you, it doesn't really make a great deal of difference. The engine you're using, obviously, the technical layout and the packaging and the volumes of things will be somewhat different, but it doesn't really influence directly the styling. I don't think it will influence the technical part, which obviously has an impact on the styling.
Because I think it's really narrow front end. It's narrower than the F4, isn't it? And
it's not actually that much narrower.
It isn't.
F4, ironically, it just allows us a little bit more freedom to have some more contrast from the external surfaces of the bike, the outside of the bike to the inside. So it's really not that much narrower. I think visually, I mean, obviously the bike is more compact, with the lower exhaust and the smaller tail unit, but it's not really substantially smaller in terms of width, but obviously it's much narrower around the seat area. So the ergonomics of this bike are a little bit more for a slightly bigger market. Even a shorter guy or girl can sit on the bike comfortably because it's very narrow over the seat area, which unfortunately, with the F4 is a little bit more difficult to achieve.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the details then. So there's so many sort of beautiful shapes on this bike. So I mean, fuel tank, and I suppose everything has to go together as one.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously an MV has to be something, I'd like to think that people who buy this bike will spend a bit of time having a look at it in the garage after they park it up for the evening, and everything has been very careful. There's been a lot of effort and energy and love, if you like, put into every surface on the bikes. And when you look at it, it's quite a sensual sort of product to own. And obviously we've got a tradition to retain. The F4 was always, the original F4 was considered to be one of the most beautiful sports bikes on the market. And although this is obviously a much lower priced product, the perceived quality and the perceived values of a brand like MV should be sort of retained to the same level. So I think we did a good job of achieving that, really, with the difference in price.
Anything in particular that you're sort of really more happy about than anything else on this bike?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think that is one thing, in the sense that I think the perceived quality of the product is still pretty good, and even though there's a big difference in price. And I mean, obviously, and another thing that was important for me is to make this bike a little bit for a wider audience, really, because F4 is when you sit on it, it does feel perhaps, compared to this, a little bit more intimidating, shall we say, in terms of seat height, in terms of how comfortable you feel. And I think this bike has to appeal to a wider group of people, and for that reason, certain areas are quite, have been developed around that sort of philosophy. Particularly like the frame plate area, the fact it's so narrow underneath the seat is, it's quite a nice area of the bike. But I think, and also things like the swing arm, obviously, swing arm on a sort of super sports bike, normally a quite crude sort of twin spar swing arms, and with this we've kept the sort of philosophy of MV, because every MV's got a single-sided swing arm. It's quite a strong feature of the bike, and we've kept that on the 600, which is, I think, quite a nice feature to have. It allows us to have a single-sided wheel, obviously, as well. So it really does come across as a true MV.
Yeah, and the fact that you've chosen three sort of exhaust, it sort of distinguishes it quite a lot from the underseat exhaust on the F4.
Taking the F4 as a sort of inspiration, the sort of the four elements on the F4 obviously explain that it's got a 4-cylinder engine. And obviously here we had a 3-cylinder engine, and we had to explain that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I mean, obviously this is an incredibly important project for MV. I mean, it's not just about the F3 project, also was the starting blocks for an entire range of products. I mean, all the key elements, for example, the exhaust system, the frame plates, the frame, obviously the engine, wheels, those kind of components will carry on into other types of bike. So, it is a starting point. It's not just a sports bike, but it is also a platform that will have the possibility to develop other products to expand our range, because obviously we want to appeal to a wider group of people, and the sports bike market is more limited now than perhaps maybe 15 years ago. So we have to obviously offer different types of bike, obviously retaining the sort of values of MV. So I think that's pretty much the conclusion on the final point.
Cool. Okay, well, Adrian, thanks for talking to us, and I'm looking forward to testing this bike more at Paul Ricard, because good day. Thank you.